Before I went to university at the age of 17, I took the IELTS language exam and got an overall score of 8.5. That was 7 years ago. Since then, I've studied 4 years in the UK and improved my language skills even further. So, how did I learn English to such a high level? What's the number one thing that you need to be able to learn the language quickly? Continue watching to find out more. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lynn, I'm a recent Oxford Engineering graduate and the founder of STEMilish, an online school for students who want to study abroad. We actually just launched our new Summer 2021 program, so if you want to learn English and get prepared for university, visit stemilish.com or our Facebook page at STEMilish to find out more. So, in today's video, I'm going to talk about one of the most important things you need to be able to study abroad, the IELTS test, or more generally, the language exams and learning English. So, what did I do to learn English to such a level? Well, firstly, I started quite early. I was actually 6 years old when I first started learning English in school, but I was learning at a school where the teacher had a thick Hungarian accent. And not that there's anything wrong with accents, but my parents thought it was really important for me to get an accurate accent, so similar to the native British or American speakers. So I went home and actually boasted about how I could speak a bit of English, and they immediately recognized that, that was not how English was supposed to sound. So they enrolled me into language school at the British Council, where I was actually taught by native speakers. So from a very young age, I got exposure to native speakers and was able to learn the accent and how they pronounce words quite easily. It is very important that you try to pronounce the things as accurately as possible. Now, a bit of accent is not an issue. Often it's actually something quite charming, but I think it's a great advantage if you can actually pronounce the words really well, because then it's easier for people to understand you, even though you might not have the perfect grammar or the perfect vocabulary. So in middle school, I continued to attend these classes. During the school year, I would attend them every Saturday, and during the summer, I was actually enrolled in intensive language learning courses, where I was actually at these classes 5 days a week. I slowly started to take on different projects and different small things that I could do in English so I could further improve my English and actually just get a bit more exposure to the language itself. But then as I got older, I started to have a more intentional approach to learning English. And I had different strategies and activities for the 4 domains of language learning, which is speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So for speaking, that was actually my weak point during high school. So I made it my focus to actually practice a lot more. And so I joined English speaking clubs. For example, that was this debate club that I joined. And I remember being really scared of public speaking and just speaking in English in general and forming those complex thoughts. But that club really helped me to be able to form these thoughts on the spot, be able to speak in front of people and actually articulate these complex arguments, even though I might not have the vocabulary to do so. Another thing that I did was actually I joined this BBC public speaking competition, and I spent probably 6 months practicing my speech and how to build up the speech, how to pronounce things correctly, and how to articulate things well. So that actually led me to win the gold medal at the BBC public speaking competition. But the thing is, that really helped me to get more practice in, because I was practicing my speech every single day, and I was practicing these sentences and these paragraphs to make sure that I was able to express myself well. Now, another thing that I did was actually join a international competition and some science conferences that were all in English. Again, that really helped me to practice my English, but the important thing there was that I wanted to learn science-related words. So that really boosted that aspect of my English. Now, regarding listening and actually reading as well, there's one thing that I did that really helped boost my English in terms of listening and reading, and that is watching films in English. Now, first, I would read the subtitles. So I would get English subtitles for English videos. There are many advantages to this method. First of all, it forces you to be able to read quickly because as the dialogue goes on, you still have to read the subtitles in that given amount of time. That actually really helps you to be able to skip over the words and try to follow the story instead of just trying to understand each and every word. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video is this skill. This skill will really help you boost your skills in English and boost the speed at which you're learning English. Because it's very important that you don't learn a language word by word, but rather you try to understand people, you try to communicate with people. So all in all, I think this method really helps you because at the beginning you read it with subtitles, you try to follow the storyline, but then you stop reading the subtitles and you only focus on your listening skills. After you get more advanced, you won't even need to switch the subtitles on, and then you will be able to fully just focus on listening, understanding different cultures and accents. And I also had a lot of fun just watching videos and films. Another thing that I did was I started browsing the internet in English. Now that sounded crazy to me at first when I was only at an intermediate level. But I thought, I browse the internet every day for a couple of hours anyway. So why not just take that time to enjoy myself, like browsing the internet like I used to, but also to do something useful with that time and actually practice my English. That actually really helps you to get more exposure to the English language and you learn a lot more diverse vocabulary. It really helps you explore those topics that you enjoy anyway. So it's a lot easier to take in those words, those sentences, the ways people speak, while you're actually learning about things that you are interested in the first place. The last thing that I did was actually I wrote a journal in English every week. I started that in high school and I found that really useful because every day I would spend roughly around half an hour to actually write out my thoughts, what I did that day, what I thought about those things that I did during the day, what my plans are, what my feelings are. And that really helped me to boost my writing skills because every day you get in roughly half an hour of practice. Not only that, you also practice that vocabulary associated with your feelings and your everyday life, so you are much more prepared to talk about these later on because you have already searched up those terms, you've already familiarized yourself with those structures and that vocabulary. All in all, I think it's really important to maximize your exposure to the language as much as possible. Get a study friend, talk to somebody, write a journal, watch films and movies in English. Just make sure that as much as possible you do things in English. Some people like to set their phone to English. Some people like to only browse the internet in English. I did everything to make sure that my exposure was as much as possible. And that's how I was able to get an IELTS 8.5 when I was 17. Now, aside from that, if you are someone who wants to learn English and wants to practice for university, make sure you check out our new program for STEMelish 2021 at our webpage stemelish.com or our Facebook at stemelish.com. For more videos, make sure to subscribe and like this video and comment below if you have any other things you would like to say, anything you would like to ask, or if you learned something new. Bye guys, see you in the next video.